Hello everybody, I'm going to get into a prophecy from Luke 21:25. And also I'm going to be covering in this segment a prophecy from Genesis chapter 12 verse 3, where it talks about the curse of the Lord on anyone who comes against Israel. But then there's also a blessing for anybody that blesses Israel there too. So that's found in Genesis chapter 12. In Joel chapter 3 verse 2, God, through the prophet Joel, we see that anybody who divides up the land of Israel will be destroyed. And also in Zechariah 12:3, God told Zechariah that anybody who comes against Israel and even burdens themselves over Jerusalem will be cut into pieces, so that we know that anybody that comes against Israel, they're going to be cursed, whereas they could have been blessed if they blessed Israel and not gone against the word of the Lord. And so let's combine Luke 21:25, where Luke says that in the last days, one of the many signs that we were given there is the sign that we were supposed to be watching for the roaring of the seas and the waves. And that obviously are the massive storms that Jesus predicted were going to be coming when all of these other prophecies were going to be taking place at the same time. Now, what I'd like to do is to show you that there is specific things that have been happening to Japan. And on March 8th of 2011, I was reading an article and I saw that Japan had pledged $3.1 million to the Palestinians to try to help them. And obviously the Palestinians are enemies of Israel. And if you follow the news just the last couple of days, you saw that 3 more of these Qassam rockets were launched from the territories that are held by the PLO into Israel. And so you had Japan on March 8th of 2011 coming against Israel, being cursed because they're helping the enemies of the Lord. And a couple days later, you saw that there was a earthquake, 7.2, that rocked Japan. Just a day and a half later. And then there was now we're going to go back to the year 2010, which is a very important date, and I'm going to show you why. Back in March 11th of 2010, I'm going to read you something from the press, from the Japanese press. It says, the government of Japan deplores the decisions of the government of Israel to give permission for the construction of 1,600 housing units in East Jerusalem. Remember what Zechariah said about burdening yourself over Jerusalem? Well, this is exactly what Japan has done. So Japan is deploring this move by Israel for these 1,600 housing units in East Jerusalem, where the Holy Temple is for the Jewish people. In addition to the 112 units in West Bank, just after the Israeli and Palestinian leadership acceptance of the date of the indirect talks. The government of Japan does not recognize any act that prejudges the final status of Jerusalem. Here they go again on Jerusalem. And the territories in the pre-1967 borders. Japan demands that the plan should not be implemented. So we see that Japan is looking for this 1967 border split, which means they're going to give back East Jerusalem to the PLO. Not only have they gotten cursed, but they've come against Jerusalem. They burdened themselves with Jerusalem, and look what happened. That article came out. This is the statement by the press, the Secretary of, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that came out and gave this for Japan, the statement. Now, the statement went out March 11th of 2010. Now, what happened on March 11th, exactly 1 year later, to the day? Japan was hit with a 9.0 earthquake. Not only was she hit with that earthquake, but there was a tsunami that took out probably a quarter or more of Japan and destroyed just about their economy. And then soon after that, we saw the meltdown of the nuclear reactors, which they're still having problems with. and that portion of Japan is still, it looks like a nuclear explosion there. I mean, the destruction. So we have seen since May 8th destruction come on Japan like you've never seen before. Now, I kept warning, I keep warning the people, please bless Israel. But if Japan continues to go the way that they are, which they have been, what do you expect? So, here we go again. Japan is going to get hit again. And the news today tells us that there's a typhoon that's heading towards Japan, and here's some of the news about it. It says let me get right down to the news. It said the typhoon Mayon is forecast to strike Japan about 200 GMT on the 19th of July. Data supplied by the U.S. Navy and Air Force Joint Typhoon Warning Center suggests that the point of landfall will Benair 32.5 north, 133.0 east. Mayon is expected to bring 1 minute maximum sustained winds to the region of around 203 kilometers or 126 miles per hour. Wind gusts in the area may considerably be higher. It says according to the Saffir-Simpson damage scale, the potential property damage and flooding from the storm of the Mayon strength category 3, which is the highest you can get is a 5, and this is a 3, so this is a pretty big typhoon that's going to hit. Category 3 at landfalls includes, now this is what they expect is going to happen. The storm surge generally 2.7 through 3.7 meters, or that equals to 9 to 12 feet above normal. So you're going to see, remember what the Lord said about the roaring of the seas and the waves? You're seeing a prime example of this going through Japan. Some structural damage to small residences and utility buildings with minor amount of certain wall failures. Damage to the shrubbery and trees with foliage blown off trees, large trees blown down. Mobile homes and poorly constructed signs are destroyed. Low-lying escape roads are cut by rising water 3 to 5 hours before arrival of the center of the storm. The flooding near the coast destroys smaller structures, with larger structures damaged by battering from the floating debris. The terrain continuously lower than 1.5 meters, which is 5 feet, above main sea level may be flooded inland 8 miles or more. So the storm may surge in 8 miles, and you know what we saw from the tsunami. So you're looking at deluge, worse, just compounded one on another. It says escalation of low-lying residencies within several blocks of the shoreline may be required, and there's also potential for flooding further inland due to the heavy rain. So take the lesson of what God has for us about this curse, because the curse is real. And if you doubt it, just look at what is happening to Japan. Now, was it a coincidence that exactly 1 year from the day that they had burdened themselves with Jerusalem and deplored and told Israel that they couldn't, essentially what they're telling them is they couldn't build these 1,600 housing units in East Jerusalem? And so they burdened themselves. Now, it wasn't a coincidence that exactly 1 year after they made that announcement, they deplored this, that those results of God's curse have fallen on Japan. I pray for the Japan's salvation. I pray that the people in Japan will begin to see what the word of the Lord says, and that they will get on their hands and their knees and ask Jesus Christ to forgive them, and ask the government, plead with their government to support Japan or Israel, and give all of the resources that they can to Israel. And because if they keep supporting the PLO and the Israel's enemies, obviously the curse is going to continue, and they're going to see more natural disasters like they just saw here. Thank you.